Jason.
We're back. It's Tuesday night, KHOP88, and it is autumn in the Midwest now. Like the temperature dropped, it got crisp outside, and there's a feel like it flipped just like that. So whatever. Some people like that, some people don't. But I don't care. Joining us is our buddy from high school, but we haven't really talked to him in many years. Nguyen. Joining us from South Minneapolis. Ton.
Hey.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hey. Howdy from Minneapolis.
So we've been talking about Ton's career as an architect and a builder, and we just glossed over this because we want to save good stuff for the show. But you went to the University of Minnesota out of high school. You were going to be an aeronautic engineer.
Yeah.
You want to briefly summarize your journey from University of Minnesota to architecture?
Yeah, so I don't know, it happens to a lot of people. I kind of tried out a whole bunch of different careers. Thought I was going to be in anthropology for a while, East Asian studies, studio arts, engineering, and then landed up in architecture, which is what my dad did, and it kind of stuck. So really enjoy it. It's been, I don't know how many years since I started my firm, 18 or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Hopkins High School, you could take like drafting and design classes and stuff like that.
I did take drafting.
Did you? So was that something that you enjoyed doing in high school where you're like, oh, this could be a thing?
Yeah.
Or did your dad make you do it?
No, I did that on my own. And then funny thing is when I had my firm and about, I would say maybe 8-10 years ago, I was at a advertising at a home show, and the drafting teacher, I forgot his name. I saw him and he stopped by and he recognized me and we chatted for a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna say Al Peterson was his name. Does that ring a bell?
I don't think so. Well, no.
I took drafting.
Like I said.
Yeah, I took drafting at West Junior High School, and the teacher was Al Peterson. And the thing he was famous for is that he taught the class at Lindbergh High School where they built a plane. You remember that? Like, every once in a while they build a plane. And
that's cool. No, I liked it. Yeah. So I ran into him at the show. So I'm surprised he remembered me.
So you are you said you're an architect and a builder. Is that the way it's been for your whole career, or did you start in one and sort of gravitate to both?
No, I was an architect first. So I've been an architect since 1996. And then I did that. I worked in San Francisco for a few years downtown. Lived on a sailboat and went to work in the financial district. And it's only in about the last 6-7 years that I started to build my own designs.
Okay, we're going to go back to the sailboat. Jason knew that. So did you live on a sailboat in San Francisco, or were you in Sausalito?
I was in San Francisco. I lived on a sailboat in Pier 39.
How did that happen? How did you get to that?
Awesome. That was so cool. I love being on a sailboat.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Calliope.
Hey. Okay, you can keep going. So Ton was saying he lived on a sailboat in San Francisco.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah. If you ever get a chance to live on a sailboat, do it, because it's a once in a lifetime deal.
So how did you manage to get onto, like, how did that work? How did you figure out that this is something you could do and you pulled the trigger and did it? So
when I moved to San Francisco, I lived in Russian Hill, which is right by Ghirardelli Square. There's a big area where it's a breakwater.
Fantastic neighborhood, one of the best.
Yep, fantastic. And I used to see people swimming across back and forth. And so I followed them one day, and then I found out they belonged to this club called the South End Club, which is the oldest club in San Francisco. So I joined, and I swam in the bay every morning. And then one of the members had a sailboat, and I said, hey, I want to live on a sailboat. And he's like, well, you can rent mine. So it happens to be this beautiful 1932 wooden sailboat built in Denmark, and lived on it. And we would unplug the water, phone, and then we would sail around Alcatraz on the weekends and the bay and Golden Gate Bridge, and come back home, plug it all in, and then Monday morning put on a tie and take the Rice-A-Roni car and go to work in downtown San Francisco.
That's
It was-
amazing.
That's
Okay,
living the San Francisco dream there. That is really like a movie,
Yeah,
lifestyle.
it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
And so, Ton, what was it like to swim in the bay? Was it polluted, cold?
It's cold. It's always, well, I mean, people say it's polluted, but I didn't think it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys swam in there every day, and they're like in their 70s and 80s. The temperatures probably in the 50s,
Mhm.
low 40s maybe in the winter time. And then once in a while, you get, you run into a seal or a sea lion.
No.
So that only happened to me twice. So it was pretty.
Did you literally run into a sea lion?
They ran into me. Yes, there was a little baby one that's about 7 feet long, and they're curious about humans, and so they would
Okay.
come up and they would bump you in the water. It's freaky as hell. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's
Very
so
scary.
fun. I remember one trip I took to San Francisco. I took the Airbnb where I was staying. The fastest way to get to the hotel where the conference was to take the cable car. And
Sure.
the guys who lived in the house were like, yep, take the cable car. And some people are like, well, nobody who lives in San Francisco actually takes the cable car. It's
Oh,
for
come on.
tourists.
That's not true.
See,
That's not
right?
true.
That's
Marty-
what I heard then too. That was great.
Do you remember the secret card wave? Because the locals have a different way of showing their card, which means
Okay.
they can stop at different parts of the road. Whereas
Oh.
if you're a tourist, you always waited at the stop.
Sure.
But if you carry the permanent year-round card, they'll stop for you at different places.
I didn't know that because I lived in Marin, but we don't have to go there. So you're living the life, the movie life in the Bay Area, which
Yeah.
sounds so cool. And so you came back to Minneapolis.
Yeah. I came back with my wife, Anne Marie. We came back here. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but we both came back. My dad was had cancer, and spent the last year with him, and then which was great. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And was intended to go back to the West Coast, but haven't got around to it yet.
Right. So I see from looking, nguyenarchitects.com is your website. I encourage people to look at it because you can see the houses that you've designed and some of the projects you're working on. But your wife is your business partner.
Yes, yeah. So Anne Marie does. She did the website. She does a lot of the marketing,
Okay.
and some other help around the office. But yeah, she helps out, and we have an office dog as well, Benny. So
That's important.
super
This
cool.
is important. This is important, Ton. I don't know how many of our episodes you've seen, but we really ask about pets and other family members. What kind of dog do you have?
Oh, it's gonna be a mouthful. So Benny is a Coton de Tulier. He is a fluffy little white dog. He's about 24 pounds,
Okay.
but he's hypoallergenic, so he doesn't shed.
Oh,
My daughter is allergic to dogs, and so we had to get a dog that was, one of those poodles, but didn't want to get anything too big. So
yeah.
Anne-Marie picked out this dog. He's, like this big, and he is so cute. Yeah.
Okay, so how many kids? One daughter at least?
I have one daughter, Sophie.
Okay.
Yep. She's 14.
Nice.
Going to high
Okay.
school next year. Yeah.
Teenagers, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious now about when you're an architect, when you add builder, what does that allow you to do in your job? How is that something that you like better than just being an architect, and why?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I used to be only the architect and design all day long in the office, 8, 10 hours a day sometimes. And then occasionally going out in the field and then I just started building with some of my clients who I've had multiple projects with. And, we were bidding and they're like, just one day, just kiddingly turn to me and say, God, this is so expensive. Can you build this? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And that's how it took off. But I really enjoy it because I'm in the field half day and I'm in the office half a day. So kind of chance to kind of get around and, talk to people. I love talking to subs because, just learn new things and chat and figure out problems before it happens. Yeah, I really like it.
And you primarily design single family homes.
Yeah.
Talk about
Yep.
what you work on, what you typically design and where you're building in the Twin
Yeah,
Cities.
so I do mostly custom homes, right around mostly in the city. When I design, I can design anywhere. So I have projects out of state.
Okay.
But when I build, it's only within an hour radius of the Twin Cities. And it's usually only most time like high-end custom homes, additions, renovations, things like that.
Sure.
And it's only single family. Although I did have a couple projects where there's a multiple generation living. So there's like grandparents living in an apartment down below or an apartment in the garage called an ADU, which is kind of popular in Minneapolis now, called an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So,
I've heard about that. I was actually thinking when you mentioned you lived in South Minneapolis, that was the first thought that occurred to me because I've seen on the Star Tribune a couple of these really cool
yeah.
people build up out of their garage or whatever.
Yeah. So I've done 2 of those last year, and it's starting to kind of take some traction there, and it's kind of expensive still because you're like building the big house and then you're building a little house. So, it's still, people think, oh, it's a garage, but no, it's like, it's got everything a little house does. So it's kind of pricey, but it makes sense because everything fits on one lot and the families are close by and yeah.
And so are the laws in the Twin Cities flexible for people who want to build ADUs?
Yeah, so they just changed that zoning code maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it's starting to get really popular now. Before it was kind of a hassle. You had to jump through a lot of hoops to do it. So, I mean, Minneapolis just took away their parking restriction too. So now that makes it easier to do design and not have, that's more on the commercial side, but it affects that as well. They're trying to increase the density in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So if someone were to ask you what style of architecture you prefer or that you work most in, how do you describe that?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes the favorite term I like to use is Minnesota modern, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like, it's not this white box that's like a Miami, New York, really super stripped down, bare bones type thing. It's kind of a modern with clean lines, but still has a lot of warm, tactile materials and very comforting and inviting, but yet not overly decorative with trim and details and things like that. So,
yeah. I can relate to that because I lived in a glass house in the Bay Area, which had no warmth. Oh. And no matter what I did, it just, there wasn't any structural space really for warmth with like the windows and the concrete and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that's what I would do. And then sometimes kind of lean towards a little bit of a high performance home, meaning like energy performance. So there was a house we did a few years ago, which is super insulated, uses German triple pane tilt turn windows. It's not a net zero, but it was kind of almost there. It was about 95%, 90%. But that's kind of sort of what I normally do, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I see some solar panels on one of these houses on your website, and
Yep.
Yeah, there's a demand for that, right? I mean, that's that I love that term, Minnesota modern, because to me that describes a lot of people that we know that they're not looking for their parents' house. They're looking for something a little cooler, but still, homey and
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I like using that term. I mean, it's kind of described. I mean, sometimes I have to elaborate on it a little bit, but most people kind of get it after they're seeing a couple photos.
Yeah.
And probably the one you're looking at, the one with the solar panel, that's Hopkins classmate as well. But I can't say who my clients are, so we'll just leave it at that.
Architect-client privilege. We keep that.
And so, has your practice changed during the pandemic? Has there been more demand, less demand?
Yeah. So during COVID, like right at the beginning, everything kind of shut down, everything slowed down quite a bit. And then everybody was stuck at home. And then they're like, oh my God, I got to change out my basement, kitchen, bathroom, whatever, fill in the blank. And suddenly it's like, pow. And there was like a shortage with, supply, labor. Nobody could get to a project. There's a waiting list. So yeah, it's been pretty busy, but also kind of frustrating because like lumber went up, 50%, then went back down and went back up. And then now there's a bunch of delays with products like windows, appliances. So it's just crazy. Yeah, it's been kind of a challenge, but still very busy.
Yeah. So we just touched on this a little bit earlier, but you were in the news because your office was it on Lake Street? Was it is that where?
No, it was my office burned down. Yep. It was about 3 blocks north of the 3rd precinct police station that burned down.
Okay.
And so what happened was all those riders were there, and then they decided to march north a little bit. And they actually burned this bar called the Hexagon Bar across the street from where my office was. And so the ashes, there was big clumps of embers floating in the air and just landed on top of the roof of my building. And I was on the 2nd floor, and it started like directly right above where my office was. And I didn't even know it because the next day I was just going about my business, going to the job site, and then somebody texted me like, "Oh, sorry to hear about your office." And I was like, what's wrong with my office? And she said,
"No,
it's on fire." So I drove over there, and there's 6 fire trucks. There's like firemen like axing, hammering, knocking down the roof. The whole thing caved down, and there's like water squirting out, and yeah, it's pretty dramatic.
So Ton, my husband has a question about this were your drawings in your office? Like
yeah,
drawings?
So I left my office that day with my laptop, and that's all I have left after that. So everything is gone except for a laptop computer, which is kind of surprising. You can be amazed at how much you need to start an office back up. Apparently just a laptop. But yeah, there's like tons of stuff, drawings, books, files. I don't know. Sometimes I forget what I lost in there until I needed it.
So was your office, I guess what I'm trying to get at is how important was your office to you location wise? Was it sort of a painstaking approach to picking out where your office was going to be and what it was, and how was that when you lost it? How did that make you feel?
I was there for, I don't know, 15 years maybe. And so I really like the people, my other tenants. I got along with them, and it's a great location. But you know, it was kind of dramatic when I lost it. You know, I
Yeah.
kind of felt a lot impact from that. But then, you know, it's kind of nice to kind of sometimes just do a blank slate and start over,
Huh.
because I've done that before. And if you haven't done it before, it's going to be hard the first time. But just to remind you, I'm an immigrant. I'm a refugee, so I came here with nothing when I
Yeah.
was a kid. And so you kind of have to do that once, because the first time is really hard, and then the second time is not so much. And then you realize that everything will be just fine. You just kind of start back up again, and it's actually better because you just start, you get a chance to start new, and you realize you don't really need all that stuff.
Tom,
So
when did you come to the United States? What year?
I came to US 1984 or 1980 maybe. Yeah. When I was a little kid.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize it was that late in your life.
Yeah.
So where did you go to elementary school? Where did you arrive, I guess, did you come right to Minnesota? Was that your first?
No, I had relatives in Minnesota. So then they sponsored us, our family, and we came to Hopkins. And I went to elementary school at Alice Smith. And yeah, and then we built our own house in Minnetonka.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So my dad was a builder, engineer, architect in Vietnam, and he built commercial structures. And so when we came here, he bought a piece of land in Minnetonka, and we built our own house like we all did. That's probably how I got into it. You know, it's like pounding, nails when I was 10, and
in the summer.
All we did everything, because when you're starting out, you can't sub stuff out, so you did everything your own. So yeah.
Okay, I have to. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Marty, please. Yeah.
Thank you. What was it like to be an immigrant 10-year-old in Hopkins School District?
I didn't really have that bad of a time. It's everything about it to me was kind of fun. It was kind of like an adventure. Even being at sea to escape the communists on a refugee boat, in the middle of the ocean with Thai pirates chasing you, was like, everything was kind of exciting as a little kid. So,
my gosh. Yeah, I
was even in a communist prison when I was 9 because we got caught. But most people probably didn't know that.
No, I would say not.
Yeah.
It was it's interesting because I certainly with the the gold medal won by Suni Lee this summer. It was sort of like the whole country awoke to this idea that, wow, there's a big Southeast Asian Hmong immigrant community in the Twin Cities. Well, Minnesota, wow. And I'm like, well, no, I always remember, there being an immigrant community growing up, certainly at West Junior High School. I played a lot of sports with Nguyen, and he not talk in detail about it, but people would have questions for him. And he would sort of answer in an offhand way. He was a funny kid and sort of challenged you back. There was a definite community in the Twin Cities, but certainly there must have been in Minnetonka and Hopkins as well.
Yeah. No, it was, it's kind of tough. Probably a lot tougher for my parents at first, but I remember when we first came to Hopkins, we had this little house, single story, and it was the first snowfall. Like, it was the first time I've ever seen snow. And you remember back then we had so much snow compared to now.
Oh my gosh!
But
all winter,
the snow would have a snow drift on the roof, and then would come down and cover the entire front door.
Yes.
So my first experience with snow was opening the front door, and it was like this wall of snow. It was like, oh my God. We don't get that anymore, but that was amazing.
Ton, when you talk about thinking about some of these experiences as an adventure for a young boy, does that come from your parents, or is that just who you are as a person?
I don't know. I think maybe because they shielded me from all the stuff that I wasn't supposed to see or felt or think about. So, you know, it's they probably, you know, made it that way, but I don't know if my other siblings thought of it that way, but I think it's kind of gave me a sense of taking risk and adventures, like living on a boat and, you know, things like that. But people wouldn't think about giving up an apartment in Western Hill during the height of the housing shortage to, you know, do something else. So yeah, I think it's just probably kind of made me decide to go be a builder, because a lot of architects are a little shy away from being a builder as well. Yeah. You know, but it's just, I don't know, you just gotta take baby steps and then go for it.
Right. Okay, so one of the questions we ask everybody here, Ton, is have you picked up any hobbies during the pandemic that you weren't doing before?
Oh, let's see. I would have to say yes, and it's cooking.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So mostly for my daughter, trying to get her happy. So she really likes, we live by this restaurant to south of us called IE, which is an Italian eatery. And it's this really kind of fancy restaurant. And she, for some reason, wants this dish called cavatale. And that's her favorite thing. She could eat that every day, right? Well, I can't afford it, right?
Right.
So I had to learn how to make cavatale, which is a handmade pasta. You have to roll it with your thumb over like this little board with ridges and to make these little grooves. And it's a semolina flour, which is kind of rough. And so I practiced that. I think we mastered it, but we're not there yet.
And what do you serve it with? How do you?
It's a bolognese sauce.
Okay. Do you make the bolognese sauce too?
Well, yeah, of course. Otherwise, you have to pay $25 for it.
Yeah, you got to. That's
very cool.
And a lot of indoor grilling as well. I started doing this indoor grilling with this grill that's like this big called yakitori. It's a Japanese grill that's made to grill indoor. It's imported from Japan. And there's even restaurants in Japan that's the only thing that they serve is little skewers on this grill. So I started doing that. So a lot of cooking, a lot of eating.
My teenager's gonna move into your house. I'm like, Lord.
If she can eat cavatelle all day long.
And the yakitori, please.
And the yakitori, yeah.
For sure.
This is fun though. I think the cooking that you took up might be a little bit more fun than the cooking that many of us took up. Like yakitori is awesome. And I've been looking at those little grills and thinking, this winter might be.
Did you?
Do it, Jason.
Yeah, do it. Especially
do it.
If you could do it, if you have a good vent hood, you could do it. You could grill in the wintertime right in your kitchen. And then you'd be like, just hand it to your guests. That's cool.
Because I do that thing in the winter that Minnesota dads do, right? Where you sort of trudge out to your Weber grill, you shovel your way out there. Yeah, it's no fun. It's not.
I do that too. Yep. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And so another question, Tom, that we ask is, was there a teacher at Hopkins High that influenced you?
Oh, yes. Mr. Borgeting.
Okay.
He teaches AP English, and the class that I was remember most from him was I think poetry, where we just kind of dissected Shakespeare sonnets. And for some reason to this day, I remember most of sonnet 116 from working with Mr. Borgeting. You know, he's like this, I don't know if you remember, he's like this really tall, skinny guy,
Yeah.
gray hair, kind of a goatee beard, kind of in your face all the time, but just so awesome. Yeah.
His name has come up on the show several times, but it is always fun to hear what different people remember him for.
Yeah.
And poetry, you know, poetry's a rough class to take when you're growing up, when you're in high school. Do you remember, like, I really like poetry, I'm interested in poetry, I'm going to take this class?
I don't know why I just, you know, I took really weird classes. I remember taking a class with Todd Ames, electricity.
Yes.
And
there
was nobody in the class except me and Todd.
No.
And they still taught the entire class with just me and Todd.
Fantastic.
That is fantastic. By the way, we are still trying to persuade Todd to show his face on camera.
Okay.
We'll let you know when he says yes, Todd.
All right. I've seen it a couple times, so maybe I'll try to give him a little push.
That was going to be my next question. Have you been in touch with Todd Ames? Who else was in that crew? Dave Hemack? Have you been in touch with any of those?
Yes.
Hopkins
So
guys?
I do see Dave Hemack. He lives in Chicago. Kind of see him every year when he comes back to visit. Sometimes we go out to Chicago. I see Brian Nairn as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Scott Hansen.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Scott Hansen. These are
We haven't been on KHOP yet.
No.
You got to get all these guys.
Mhm.
Yep. Try and get them on there. Yeah, these are, I think Scott and Brian and I were on the ski team together and cross-country running. Cross-country skiing and running. I only did it for 1 year. I'm not very good at it. So.
Yeah, me neither. I did skiing 1 year too. It did not agree with me.
I'm not really good long distance. Always a lot of last coming in.
It's embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I tried it, right?
Yes, right. Well, and that's it. You know, that's another thing that I think we were, I don't know if it's a generational thing or, you know, a position in where, you know, where we lived, where we went to a big high school that had a lot of opportunities, but we all tried. We were able to try stuff at Hopkins, and there was low, you know, low risk, or maybe there was higher risk and I'm just not remembering it, but we all just kind of did, I think. So,
yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I actually was thinking back about my high school experience and the classes I took. And I mean, Todd and I spent the whole class making a Tesla coil, which is where the Tesla car was famous from the guy named Tesla, who made the Tesla coil.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we learned that in high school and we made one, you know, it's like, that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
You know? And there's only 2 guys in the class.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, that alone is pretty amazing because in our huge high school, when are you going to get the opportunity to get that sort of one-on-one hands-on learning? And, I'm sure, by the way, that my dad told me I should take electricity, and I'm sure I said, whatever, you know, I'm not doing that.
Nobody, I was just kind of surprised, and we showed up and there was nobody in the class. I don't think it happened anywhere else. So
That's a very good story. You remember a lot from high school more than I do.
Oh, yeah? Have you been back to the school lately, ever? Like I went. You have?
Yeah, like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. But
yeah, I think I've been back maybe once or twice due to like some kind of an event.
Yeah.
Totally unrecognizable, right? The entrance is not even there. It's a totally different entrance. However, the senior steps, that's the only thing you can recognize. Yeah. And maybe where my locker used to be, but
yeah.
So
but,
cool.
Yeah, next time I go, it seems like I'm always there when school is not in session. It's in the summer or the winter break or something.
Yeah. It's very modern now. It's like this big box edition. So
yeah, as an architect.
Well, Jason, I'm interrupting. Jason, it'd be funny to do a KHOP episode from the senior steps.
Oh yeah.
We should do it.
Someday.
Yeah.
A current Hopkins High School teacher who was 2 years behind us in school, Rick, his name's fun to say, Rick Rexroth was 2 years behind us in school. He just friended me on Facebook here. We've got an in, Marnie. We've got somebody who can get us in the building.
Oh, right. Okay.
I can flash my card like I would the cable car.
Right.
I'm sorry. Okay, so Todd, What?
I was just going to say, do you ever think of that building as an architect would? Like, some interesting choices.
Well, just now when I come up and I was like, oh, that's where the entrance is. Like, well, that's a funny addition, or but not then, yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember there was a weird staircase to nowhere on like the far, I guess it would have been the far south wing of the school. There was like a staircase that went up and there was nothing at the top of the staircase. And it was like gated off. You couldn't go up there.
Oh, that's probably still there.
You're probably still there.
Yeah.
Well, it was, okay, so we often arrive at this point too. Is there
Yes.
something that you thought about in preparing for the show or thinking about the show that we haven't gotten to, or a question or a memory or something like that that has been baking in your brain this week?
No, it just made me remember this one time. I'm going to give another San Francisco memory.
Sure.
And I don't remember who this guy was, and maybe he'll remember me and then contact me. But the second day I was in San Francisco, I was standing in a little convenience store, and I was so amazed at the fact that you could buy one beer and they will give you a brown bag with it, because at that time in Minnesota, you can't buy a beer. And so I'm sitting there waiting in line, and then this dude comes up, and he's wearing leather jacket with suede fringes, and he's like, "Hey, are you from Minnesota?" I'm like, "Yeah." I had no idea who he was. Long blonde hair, looks like a surfer. He's like, "Are you from Hopkins?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Are you Nguyen?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Who are you?" I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I'm so-and-so, class of '88. And I was like, no idea who he was. So
Wonderful story. We'll find it.
hopefully find that gentleman and let me know who he
People
is.
are going to start weighing in on who they think it is. I think, yeah. It wasn't Jason Crow, was it? This seems like a Jason Crow thing.
No, I think I would remember him. He was totally different, like long blonde hair,
Okay.
totally tan, suede jacket, at a convenience store in Russian Hill. So
That's fantastic story, Tom.
That's
so
a great,
much.
yeah. So there's a mystery. Next time you talk to someone who lives in San Francisco, ask him if that's him. So
It's
funny.
not Tony Cobb.
I would have to look at his picture and see if I recognize him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fun. All right. So
Yeah.
I love that beer thing about San Francisco, because there's BYOB restaurants, or maybe there aren't anymore. There used to be BYOB restaurants.
Oh yeah, the sushi restaurant.
Yeah, they'd say like, "Hey, can I get it? Do you have beer? Can I order a beer?" "No, we don't serve beer, but that place, you can go get a beer over there and bring it back in."
Yeah, in a brown bag.
Times in San Francisco, right? In a brown bag.
Yeah. Yep.
Arnie, who's coming up on the big show?
Well, I just have to say again, I'm so happy Ton was here with us this week. But next week, just as great, we have Kathy Russett Stacey from Colorado. October 5th, John Dale, also from Colorado.
John remembers John Dale.
October 12th, Michael Eiley, sorry.
Yep.
October 19th, mystery guest. It might be one of you who's listening. October 26th, Wendy White McDougall. 11/9, the baseball team, thanks to Eric Haugen. And then December 7th, the band. And the band show is growing big.
Wow.
That's going to be great.
All the band members should contact me, and then we will give you the secret codes.
The mention, not to extend our show here too late, but the mention of John Dale got me thinking, Ton, because a bunch of people from our class obviously went to the University of Minnesota. And there were some people who really stuck close to Hopkins people and some people who got away from Hopkins people quick. What was your navigation of the, first of all, did you live down on campus? And second, what was your relationship to Hopkins people when you went to college?
Let's see. Oh, actually, no, wait. I was roommate with Oren Herfindahl.
Who's that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Scott, I think he went
Scott,
by high school.
yeah, he went by Scott Herfindahl.
Oh, yeah.
Back then. And so I was roommate with him for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
At the U of M, I live in campus.
Oh, so, okay.
Han, I'm going to have to email you. You might be able to help me with some guest recruitment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I might, I could probably find Scott's contact. He goes by his first name now. So, so his real name is Oren Herfindahl and Oren Scott Herfindahl. So he used to go by Scott Herfindahl.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, there were a couple we've heard from, like Tony Burbeck and Tony Ceruno lived together, were roommates, and apparently had the party room in some dorm room through raging parties. But yeah, that's cool. Okay, I'm glad I asked you about that. So you actually had a Hopkins high school roommate. That's great.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Tom. This has been great. I did not anticipate the sailboat story. That's pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah, I love the sailboat story.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to top it off,
please.
Anne-Marie and I decided to go back to Minnesota and to build a sailboat. And so we started doing that. And for about a few years, I started to build a wooden sailboat. I was going to sail around the world with her. But, you know, like most of us, we had a baby. And she's now 14. And I decided to spend a lot of time either in the garage or with the baby. So the sailboat went out.
So the sailboat, not unfinished sailboat.
Unfinished, kind of gave it to somebody else and decided to raise a daughter instead.
Yeah.
Which is good.
That is good. Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Maybe we'll come back to the sailboat another time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's a retirement activity. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom. That was great. It was great talking to you. And everybody else we'll see hopefully next Tuesday. Marnie.
I'll be here.
Forward to it.
One other person you should try to contact and find is Dan Hines.
Yes.
Dan was on the ski team with me, and I went down the Grand Canyon with him. So I spent 28 days in a raft, sailing or rafting through the entire Grand Canyon from, front to back with Dan Hines.
With Dan Hines. After high school, or
this was like 3 years ago.
Whoa, really?
So cool.
Yeah, and if you ever talk to Dan, you should ask him about the permit because it took him 21 years to get that Grand Canyon permit. He was on a waiting list. He was on a waiting list to get the Grand Canyon permit for 21 years. So, I guess I signed on. I forgot about it.
I was going to say he chose you to go to take.
Yeah. So see if you can get Dan to talk about his grand trip because that was awesome.
Okay,
Dan. I remember Dan as being sort of a goofball in high school, but fun to talk to almost always. So
yeah, he's still a goofball.
Okay.
Well, I will email you later this week, Ton, and you should check if you would like the Facebook group because there's all sorts of warm wishes to you and kind words. And so I didn't read them all off because you've been telling such interesting, fabulous stories, but we are all grateful that you showed your face here tonight.
Yeah, it's nice to get in touch with you guys again.
Yeah.
I'll watch the other shows.
Okay.
Okay.
And Dina Barron says hi.
Oh, hi, Dina.
She's on one of the episodes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll check it out.
Okay. Next Tuesday.
Take care, everybody.
Hey.
Hey.